Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. All right, so...
Happy Friday.
Yes, thank God it's Friday, right?
And happy Saturday for all the Australian people.
Definitely. All right, so today we will be discussing the topic that was talked about in the video that I posted recently. It's about surviving quarantine, coping with quarantine. So before we get started on all the topics and everything everyone talked about, let's discuss some disclaimers about COVID-19 and quarantine. Take it away.
Right, so something very, very important that we want to discuss before we even get to the conversation about emotional, spiritual, and mental part is that we don't want to talk about the physical part because there is already, I would just say, huge disagreement, between people, if this thing is real, if it's not real, what is really happening. And so we just want to go over how has affected all of us, because no matter if we believe it or not, some of us, right, having different opinions, it still has affected us in same ways. So many of us have been dealt with quarantine, being stuck at home. Especially, I remember like here in Chicago, when was it, last year, we were here for, 2 or 3 months or maybe more, literally just stuck at home, and we couldn't even go anywhere. There were these restrictions. So, it was like really tough. So, we just kind of like want to go over how has affected all of us, in an emotional, mental, and spiritual sense. And even if we talk about physical, we're not going to talk about, I would just say, the virus itself, but how our lives physically have been affected by what is happening around us.
Yes, and spiritually, which we will be talking about.
Definitely.
Yeah, check that out, by the way. All right, so let's discuss. Let's be honest about coping with quarantine, how hard it was. If you guys have any comments about what you went through, you want to ask any advice about how to spiritually thrive when it comes to the effects of the pandemic and quarantine and how that's been, definitely go ahead and ask us any questions that you want. So we'll be happy to share with you all of our advice and anything along those lines. So definitely, so COVID-19 definitely started December 2019. And for us in Chicago, quarantine started around March,
April. Yeah.
Yeah. Tough time. But, common stressors with COVID included just people with anxiety having even more anxiety, depressions, dealing with, people like frustrated and bored, and it just like was putting all the kids and all the moms and all the dads in the same house. And I felt like it was a recipe for disaster for most people. So it's definitely something that a lot of us had to go through. So my focus on this live and the video that I've posted is about now talking about the spiritual effects and how we can spiritually get through all of this. Hey, Ned. Hey, Sharon.
Hi, girls. Welcome.
Yes. So talking about coping with quarantine is an important thing to do because we all need help at some point. And that's what we're here for. We're here to help you guys get through it. And just feel free to ask us any questions or tell us your story of how you got through quarantine and how it emotionally or physically affected you. So I feel personally that people don't talk about the spiritual effects of quarantine as much as they should, which is also the emotional effects. Spirituality and emotions go together, wouldn't you agree? It's really hard to do. And I feel like we have to mention the spirituality aspect, spirituality being, your personal self, how you feel about yourself, because a lot of the things that went through COVID was just the fights between people. But what about the fight within yourself? What about your own spiritual awakening, which we can discuss, So let's discuss it. What do you think?
So I want to talk a little bit about my own experience. A little bit before COVID, there was already, you could just tell that something was happening. By the way, hi Rachel, welcome, hi. There was some sort of, I would just say financial collapsing already, at least in Chicago, right? And so my company shut down. So I lost my job at the time. And then this was like a really big hit to start with. And then a little bit just after, it was when COVID just, showed up. And so, when we had to be stuck at home, there were so many things happening. So, the financial situation was getting difficult. And then at that time I was dealing with, stress and anxiety because I had already my own issues. Hi, Kathleen, welcome. So I had my own personal, issues, spiritual issues, emotional issues, what was going on with my step family. And then kind of like, I would just say when I was going out at work, right? Or when I was, let's say after work, we just go with Leo, have food. And it was like a nice way of distracting myself of what was really happening. So I would just, let's say, go home and then, maybe I would just do maybe half an hour meditation, just come back to myself. And then the rest of the day was distraction. But when the quarantine happened, there were no distractions. All of a sudden, we couldn't go out. There was no 8 hours of work to distract me. So I was just stuck at home with everything that was avoiding. And that was a really, really big thing at that time for me. And so, I have to admit that at least for 6 months, it was really difficult. Hi, Jasmine. It was really difficult. Because on the top of my own stress and anxiety, there was fear. And everything was escalating. So what was your, Leo, your experience, at least in the beginning, before we even go how we go through it, because it was like a very, very difficult time for us.
Yes. And guys, feel free to tell your story, ask any questions along the way about, dealing with quarantine now and in the past. So first thing for me, I just, got into a new job and it suddenly just collapsed. So everything collapsed with COVID and all the stressors then went into the home and then things just got really crazy. So for me, it was just my alone time, my sacred space, my good times, just knowing that I had my own control of my own emotions. That was really tough for me. Just being stuck at home all the time was super hard. It was like going through withdrawal. And surviving quarantine, to be honest, it was a struggle for everyone. Even a struggle for me. I was used to helping other people with it, but it was a struggle. A huge struggle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It definitely was. And then because we are, we're both having also our own spiritual path when we're at home, then kind of all these spiritual issues that we're avoiding, for example, things from our previous lifetimes or times that we had to share space when we were going to meditate or emotional issues or mental things that we were avoiding, just everything just exploded. It was not a lot, but it just did, right? And so let's say that I don't know what was one of the biggest. There were so many things that we were avoiding, right? Yeah. So even the physical situation, for example, let's say, is the home good enough that we're right now? Or what if we could just go to a new place? And now with COVID, kind of like we felt like, oh my God, we're quarantined, so we're stuck. And the fact that I felt that we didn't have an exit and a way out, it added more stress. And I have to admit that in the beginning, we were fighting. Remember? It was because there was so much stress going on. Not fighting, but there was like so much tension at home. And we just didn't know how to cope with it. Because so many things were taken away. And so, so we're gonna go over your tips and then we're gonna go over the facts. So how we did actually make it work.
Yes, definitely. So surviving quarantine was difficult, but The thing is, a lot of the things that went on in quarantine were in the homes, but they were like secret, you know?
Yeah.
Like you didn't hear about families breaking apart, divorces, fights, you know, even deaths in the family until it was too late, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like what quarantine did and what COVID did, it definitely pushed things to the surface. So things that were hiding in plain sight just boom, you know? Like, you know, if someone was stepping on a marriage, can't do that no more. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
You can't do that no more. If you're going out to a club every Friday, can't do that no more. So very tough. So for me, the things that, you know, you have to, that were very spiritually draining during COVID was, as I mentioned in my video, one being with so many people around you. When you're around so many people for that long in quarantine, you're just crowded with all this emotional energy. And spiritually, that really drains you. So I know all of you were definitely stuck in quarantine or stuck now in quarantine. And it was tough because then your emotions mix with other people's emotions 24/7, which is not natural.
Yeah.
There's no alone time, you know? Hey, Tracy, welcome.
Hi, Tracy.
So definitely, if you can relate to that, let us know. But it was very harsh with that. Secondly, the pandemic definitely didn't allow us to relax because we all have our wind downs, whether it be video games or going to the bar on a Friday night, you know, maybe not watching Facebook Live, but actually watching, you know, the game on a Friday night.
Yeah.
That happened, but it just can't happen no more. And it was, people did a lot of things to relax, and quarantine limited that. And it was tough. And so that itself, relaxation, meditation, was something that was not able to happen anymore, especially for me. And 3, quarantine limited the physical access to sanctuaries. So places that you think are sacred, whether they be, you know, your room meditating or they are in the garden. You know, I remember in the beginning of COVID, you can't even, you know, go outside for quite some time. There was quarantines where you can't even go outside past 10 and stuff like that. That was...
Even like past 8 or 9 o'clock, we just use, at least like here, you know, in the US and so on, I don't know, because in, you know, in Australia, for many people I know, it is a little bit different experience, but our phones were buzzing literally. So there were like warnings that you have to be home at that time. So that by itself was very, very stressful. Oh yeah, definitely. So access to sanctuaries, and what I mean by that is just safe spaces, because it's like we like going to the Baha'i temple. I was about to say that, yeah.
Up north, and we couldn't go anymore, and I was so sad because I used to go once a month. And honestly, it was hard to go without, you know, so I was like, what am I going to do without? It's hard. So being in quarantine, not allowing me to go to those places that I go to relax and let my emotions go, was difficult. But for me, and for all the bad things about quarantine, there's good things when you could just flip the script. All you have to do is turn your negative into a positive. So for me, for my number one about being crowded in homes, the way that I solved it is by setting boundaries in the home and creating my own safe space. So you have to be honest with the people that you live with. Yeah. You got to be honest that, you know, I'm feeling crowded, I'm feeling claustrophobic, and I need space, or I need some time by myself. Don't be offended. And just letting people know that you're stressed out and you need time to breathe, to feel safe. It's really tough. Like we talked about in our previous live, the thing about family is you want to feel safe with them. And if you can't feel safe with the people you're stuck in quarantine with, it just explodes. So definitely a fix is allowing yourself to make safe space, you know, when it comes to quarantine. Secondly, setting aside time for relaxation and meditation. It's super key. So if you're even not doing it right now, make sure that you're taking care of it. Make sure that you are setting aside time for your own meditation, whether it be 10 minutes a day. It doesn't matter. As long as you are consciously setting time away from everyone to be with yourself, it really helps. And I promise you that it really helps for sure. And the third thing is creating your own sanctuary. So what we did at home is, since we couldn't go to the Baha'i temple all the time, we couldn't go to any temple at all, which sucked. You know, I used to go downtown and just like watch the waves go, but I couldn't do that because COVID. So, you know, surviving that, we made our own sanctuary at home. We decided to make an altar to like bring us good fortune. Then Luna, I think you created a altar, you know, Japanese style altar with like a dragon and waterfall. So just creating sanctuaries at home, it was really helpful because it allowed for us a place to be ourselves and to feel safe again, you know, because COVID, oh my God, let's be honest, it was hard, you know, it was really tough. So those are my three top issues that I saw in other people that I was dealing with and other clients. And then things that I was dealing with personally. It was tough. It was real tough.
Yeah, the thing that, the most difficult thing for me was, I would just say being an empath and having to deal with all the energies that, from the people I was talking to. Sometimes I was getting overwhelmed because I really wanted to be out there and speak with others, give advice, support as much as I can. But when I would just, you know, close my phone or close my social media, I was very overwhelmed. I was crying and there was too much going on. So I felt that I have my own stress about the situation. Plus I'm taking everyone else's stress and that would be magnified. So what I did was that, when I was done to talking to people, I would just, take some moments, close my eyes and just take some deep breaths, like breathe in good energy, breathe out whatever doesn't serve me anymore, whatever is not mine anymore, and just allow it to go back to wherever it came from, or in the universe, right? Because it was really difficult. That was one of the big things for me. Two, again, as an empath, because I know that many people are empaths, where, you know, when whatever other people feel, you feel it. So if someone is stressed, you feel stressed. If someone is sad, you feel sad. And it doesn't necessarily have to be inside your own household. It could just be someone you're really close to. And so that can go in a greater scale. So reading the news, that was the biggest for me. That was, I think, the biggest mistake. Because in the beginning, of course, I wanted to be informed, right? And so I was frequently reading the news in different places online. I would just go to different websites, also on social media. There were like tons of information, but then there was nothing good. So you know yourself how the news are. They don't say, you know, happy things. They always say like depressing things, like what is going wrong, how things are getting worse. And I just ended up having terrible sleep. I started having nightmares. And I started having dreams about, you know, COVID, quarantine, people dying. It was just so bad. So what I did was I took a step back and I would just literally ask Leo, tell me what I need to know, just necessary information. Because, you know, once I would just go in, the news and started researching, I would just go dig more and more and more. And that would just literally affect me. And that was very, very stressful. What was another one? There were like so many things happening. Another thing was, I feel, I got stuck with my own personal problems, because around the time when COVID got announced, I also found out that I'm adopted. And I was hoping that going out of work, you know, and just go out and just forget about it at least half of the day, then I would just stuck with it. And I felt like I don't have a way to express these emotions, you know, disappointment, grief, anger, and to work with all that. Meditation was one way to do about it. Breathing exercises, art helped me a lot.
Yeah.
I can't stress enough. So I started doing acrylic painting, so pouring. So I would just take different colors on the canvas and I would just splash them, and then I would just let the color just drip and fall and then create their own shapes. And I love watching that. It was very, very relaxing.
Definitely.
Another thing that I incorporated to my sleep was that helped me actually a lot. Yeah, I know, Jasmine, that it did, and you did such a nice work. I've seen your work. It's really, really pretty.
It's true.
And another thing that I love was to play water sounds. So usually before I sleep, I love playing meditation music to relax me, help me have a better sleep. But I realized that during quarantine, I was extra stressed out. And I noticed that when I would just be underwater, like just taking a shower or a bath, when just let the water relax me, I wanted to have the feeling, I would just say, more time. So I would find videos in YouTube that have just water. So it could be rain, it could be maybe waves, at the sea. So just listen to the water, and that would just help me go to sleep. And I realized that while waking up, I would just be feeling less stressed.
That's true. Yeah, so if any of you guys have any stories of COVID or how you survived the hardships, anything that you want to mention, anything you want to ask, feel free at any moment to write in the comments, ask us any questions that you want to ask. We're here to offer any advice that you need, and also give our perspective on how to turn a negative into a positive.
Hi, Roxana!
Hey, Roxana! So, yeah, and Roxana's a really good friend from Japan. She definitely has an interesting perspective, about how that happened. So yeah, feel free to give your tips or tricks or questions about how you survived quarantine. It's pretty tough. But yeah, I think that one of the most important things about surviving quarantine was not reading the news. The news was toxic. Oh my goodness. So, okay, during COVID, the news stations really, we needed them, right? To express what we needed to know, and then for us to take care of ourselves. But I feel like the news stations were taking a little bit too much leverage with that, and they wanted to keep the viewership up because that's how they make their money.
Right.
It was very toxic, and it was already scary. It was all scary at home. We were suffering from so many things, like depression, anxiety was triggered like this. And I know all of you can relate to that. It was a very stressful time. We were afraid of getting injected. We were afraid of not getting injected. We were afraid of a vaccine. We were afraid of the COVID. We were just afraid of everything. And then the news comes in and just says, hey, and this is happening, and that's happening, and this shooting is happening, and this person's dying. It's a lot. So I think that it's one of those things that we can all share, and the struggle that we share. And it's time to understand that when it comes to COVID, sometimes you got to put the news away, especially even on an everyday basis, actually. Like for us, I think it was end of last year is when I stopped watching the news so much, because the news was causing me so much stress and anxiety.
You too.
Yeah, oh my God. I was like, I am going to have a panic attack, so it was hard. It was hard for me. Hello. So if you guys have stories to share about the news, did you guys watch the news? And when was the point at which you had to cut off the news? Was it too stressful for you guys? Because for us, it was. We're very spiritually in tune people, right? So to empathically feel everyone's pain around you, and then to be constantly on a 24-hour cycle, reminded of people's pain 24/7.
Yeah.
It affects people who are sensitive, and then causes them not only stress, but pain. I think that's something that we don't talk about. We talk about, the fear of being in quarantine and watching the crazy stories on the news causing you stress and anxiety. But do we talk about how it causes you pain? It causes literally you empathizing with the people on the news, empathizing with the people out there dying, on their ventilators. And then suddenly you feel that pain, you feel that stress and anxiety. It's deeper than just knowing that there's danger out there. There's spiritual consequences to the pandemic. And if you guys have any of that, you definitely know that was tough.
I feel that the worst part was, and it still has affected many, many people, not being able to see loved ones who went to the hospital, or people who were sick and you couldn't physically just go see them. And they are people that you care about, and you're not allowed to go see them. It's insane, and it's scary.
Oh yeah, so scary.
And so, that was very, very tough. So, at least from my perspective, how I would just try to be in contact with, all the people I care about. So even if you physically cannot be there, because I know you guys in Australia now, you're technically where we were some months ago.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Australia, because we have so much friends in Australia and the Western world. The Eastern world. They tell us about, the fact that a lot of them are in quarantine right now, so our hearts go out to you guys.
Yeah.
You guys are still in quarantine, still in lockdowns. Here in the U.S., it's kind of like up and down, but, in different parts of the world, not so out there, we have a comment from our good friend Debbie. Basically, she was saying that, let's be honest about isolation, especially the elderly business closures, working from home, children being homeschooled, all new experiences that have caused stress. When it comes to another one of our friends over there, her name is Steffi Sickle. She said, please be honest about those things, that are still hunkered down, not yet ready to acclimate for health reasons. I appreciate your guidance and advice.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough because a lot of us are immune compromised out there, more than we think, like the elderly.
Yeah.
The parents, you got to be careful with them. If they're anywhere, you don't want to come and spread the disease if you have it, so that causes a lot of stress. And it's all about, if you really do care, you have to be careful with the elderly.
But also, how elderly people are, they have to be around, people. So kind of like you're being faced with life or death dilemma. That's so cruel. So you say, if I go, I might make them sick, but if I leave them alone, they would die from loneliness. So what do I do?
I know. So definitely, and for all the businesses that are suffering in Australia, our hearts go out to you. We've heard that a lot of people are losing their jobs because they're not getting vaccinated, and there's a lot of turmoil over vaccinations, but in reality, it's all about what feels right, and it's all about how you feel deep inside, and your spiritual health, your emotional health, because your emotions cause stress, and then that stress causes you sickness. So it can only get worse from there. So yeah, again, hearts go out to them. A shout out to Debbie and Steffi. Your comments are heard, and my best advice for what's going on with you guys, definitely reach out to us, and if we can help in any way to give you emotional advice, if there's any conflict in your homes, just ask us some advice. We'd be happy to bring you some clarity. But when it comes to all of those things, they're very new things. But just try your strongest to adapt in a caring way, because everyone around you is suffering the same as you, even if they don't show it. So try to empathize with your neighbor and your friends. Try to be there for people when they don't look like they want to be, touched or hugged. Show them that you care. There's a lot of people out there who suffer every day, especially through the pandemic. And honestly, since we're on that topic, it is our job as people to get out and to help our neighbor in need. So remember that, everyone around you is suffering the same, and that we all have the same stories. We all have the same stories. What's your advice for all those Australian people?
So, there are a couple things that, I'm just seeing that from the comments that are being touched. First of all, about the elderly people, when there is usually a dilemma, there's always the third way to go about it. Because we're usually, stuck between this or that. But what if there's another way to do things? And I feel that a great way to go about it is just video call them. That's the best way to be close to them, because they can see your face, they can talk to you, they can see your face expression, they don't just hear your voice. So even if you have to be with them maybe for a couple hours, there are some devices right now that they are available, to elderly people, where you can video call them, and then you can do an art project together, you can watch a movie together, and you can still share time together. So I feel that this is the time to literally just think out of the box. That's what this pandemic taught me, because in the beginning I felt trapped, but we are humans, and humans usually thrive in the worst situations.
Unfortunately.
Which is true. When things get the toughest, we always find a way to break free from our shell. So for example, for the business challenges, I've seen that many people have lost their businesses. We lost our job as well. And so in the beginning, I was frustrated, I was stressed out, I didn't know what to do. And then I just realized that I feel that perhaps I have to go back to what is natural to me. Just start my spiritual business, because I was always going back and forth, in past years. So I would just start the business and then I would just try to have something else on the side to kind of counterbalance it. But I never took my spiritual gifts for, I took them for granted, and I never thought that, well, they could actually turn into an actual business. But when COVID started, I'm like, perhaps it's the right time to do it. And this is when I put everything forth and I did my absolute best to help others. And I feel so, my advice is that for you guys who are struggling with your own business, you know, when they say, if you had the time, all the time of the world, what would you do? So let's say if you could just, maybe a hobby of yours, let's say if you do, sculptures, right? Or if you do art, or if you're a writer, you can turn your hobby, into a profitable business. And it can actually happen. So just literally just think outside of the box and take this as an opportunity. So for example, if you are stuck at home with, you know, with many people, and then you're not used to, you know, being your kids around all the time, and then, you know, you want some time out as a parent or whatever. Remember what you used to say in the past. What if I had more time for my kids? So there you go, the opportunity where you have more time with your kids. Or, if you're in a relationship and then you said, I never had time for my partner. Now you have time for your partner. So perhaps if you have some issues with them, it's the right time to talk it out, because you will have never had the time before to talk about it.
Yeah, that's true. So Roxana Russo, she said, in Japan, we didn't have a strict quarantine. Actually, now my grandchild is in quarantine for one COVID case in her kindergarten. We spend the day playing, dancing, painting, cleaning the house, making biscuits.
So cute.
And walking around the house. No TV, no news, no drama.
There you go.
That's true. There are a lot of opportunities that quarantine can give you. So it's always important for you to sort of give time to things that you're not able to do. I know that, and even personally, so being stuck in sort of like a depressive state because you've lost everything is tough to bear.
Yeah.
You know, how many of you lost jobs out there, you know? How many of you lost family members? How many of you lost businesses, you know? And it's tough. But you have to look at the bright side of things. That's where you can bring sort of like a spiritual aspect into things. To basically ask yourself, what is the purpose of quarantine?
Mm-hmm. For you.
Yeah. What can you make of the pandemic? And out of all the negative, what is the positives that can come out of it? You know, still a lot of children were born during quarantine. You know, children are still on their way, and COVID is still here. So you will constantly have to ask yourself, what am I meant to do during this time?
Yeah.
Who am I meant to help? Who am I meant to inspire? If you are spiritually in tune with the universe around you, it might be your job to get out there and spiritually help people, or to help people cope with it, or to help people be emotionally safe during the pandemic, to reach out to the elderly, to reach out to the friend that is so quiet in the corner. Why not? You know, so I think that those things can really, really help. Definitely give other people the love that you would want during the pandemic, because the pandemic is hard on all of us. And quarantine is crazy. I never thought I could ever feel this way, honestly. Quarantine is, it just really gets to you. So that's heartwarming to hear, Roxana, that you're making the best of what you can. It's true. As you were mentioning before, the news is a very big damper on our lives. But during COVID, the news caused, I think, way more harm than it did good.
Yeah.
You know, we had the elections and stuff. We had, you know, people, you know, passing away. It was really tough. So if you have a story to share about your things that you had to shut out during the pandemic, feel free to leave a comment. Feel free to let us know what you thought about the pandemic and how you survived quarantine. We'd love to hear your story for sure. But that's beautiful. Yeah. Playing with the children is just a gorgeous way. I mean, yeah. You know, we just got our cat.
Yep.
Yeah, we had just got our cat at the beginning of quarantine. And you want to grab her?
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to grab her and show you the cat.
She's around anyway, so might as well. Come on, Joy.
Yeah, so we got Joy, who's our cat. We got her, I think it was January. We saw her for the first time around January of 2020, and then we didn't get her till later. But we met her for the first time, and she saved our lives.
She's a little angel.
How did I survive COVID?
Oh, she's giving kisses.
A cat.
A cat giving kisses.
Yes, my baby.
Good girl, Joy.
Good girl. So this is how I survived COVID, with Joy. She saved our lives. It was really tough, but she definitely gave us the love that we deserved and needed. So if you ever need a pet, like a support animal, like some of you might need, this is the one. Yeah, so say bye, Joy. Say bye. Say hi.
Hi, bye. Yeah?
So cute.
Good girl.
All right, goodbye. So that's how I survived quarantine. Joy. Would you agree? I think so.
And it's I learned a lot from Joy, actually, because she's a cat, and you know, cats can give you love, but also can show you boundaries. And I have to admit that at that time I learned a lot how to do that, because sometimes I would just, you know, pour my heart out, and I just didn't know. I wouldn't get the signals. I wouldn't, when someone was giving me signals that, okay, stop, that's enough, I could just keep going. But with Joy, you know, she can give love, she can receive love, but she's like, okay, now I need my personal space. And I learned how to respect that for her, for myself, and for others. Another thing that I did during quarantine, I started learning languages. Currently I'm learning Spanish and Japanese. Yep. So, that of course came from, I always wanted to learn a new language, and I wanted to, you know, expand. So that was a good time for me to do it. I loved it. What else did I did so many different things, because we couldn't go out for a walk, at least in the beginning. I took a time and I watched many nature videos. And I would just watch, you know, wildlife. I would just open a big screen. I would just pretend I'm outside. So find ways to substitute the things that you cannot have in another way. There's so many different things we can do. So let's say that you love, you know, I know many people love Starbucks, right? But we learned how to make our own recipe at home. At least I tried to replicate Starbucks, because we couldn't go at that time. So we learned how to make our own coffee home.
That's true. Yeah. Did you guys make any recipes during COVID and during the pandemic? I survived quarantine by learning how to cook even better.
Yeah.
And you'll see my fancy food on my, on my Facebook feed. Today we made salmon, which I'll post the photos eventually. But oh man, they're so fancy, because, you know, I was watching so much Master Chef, and, you know, I was like, I need to get through quarantine, and I need to, you know, I'm a really big foodie. So I love food, so I need to get out there and actually enjoy it. So I need to learn how to make my own good food. That's the truth. Roxana said, it's a pause, introspection time. Understand how lucky we are, and how we are to be in the quarantine at this time. And can you imagine how it was 50 years ago? Let's be honest. Let's be honest about that. Grandparents have no idea what's going on, because they wouldn't even have phones, computers. Barely any TV. Where, you know, like, if this was happening like in the 1940s or the 1930s, how would they have survived?
Oh no.
Medical technology wasn't even ready for all of this. The type of technology and the transportation that we have to save lives today wouldn't exist. So that would be super tough. So I definitely agree with that. 100%. So Sharon said, my best friend's mom passed away. It was so sad. Aww. I live 1 hour away from Sydney. Most of us are vaccinated, but I haven't been to Sydney for 2 years. So I went to the funeral to support my friend only. the church service and not the wake afterwards at the club. Now I feel bad not going, but I have kept safe. So many people are scared to mingle with the crowds of people. God bless us all. Definitely. Yeah, that's what a story, Sharon. Our condolences for your family and friends.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. COVID has caused a lot of people that I know, to have deaths in the family. Especially, in my community. And it's been really tough for sure. But, about those things, don't feel ashamed because, I've had funerals recently and it's really tough where you have family from out of state. You can't travel and then come to a funeral, and then endanger elderly people. So there's only so much you could do. So definitely don't feel guilty. But at least your spirit was there. At least your heart was in it, and your good intention. So you deserve credit for that. So you should be proud of yourself for at least trying. You know, it's tough during the pandemic, but at least you tried, and you have a good heart with it too.
Yeah. And another thing that I would love to mention is self-care and self-love.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get to
that. And it's a really big one. During these tough times because, we care for others and we just want to help everyone, right? But where is the part that we care about ourselves? And we just say, I just care about myself. It's okay. We just take it for granted, but it's not like that. So, I remember, as I said earlier, talking to so many people and trying to support, like sometimes I got like 50 messages, on my messenger, on Facebook. And then I had like 10 texts on my phone and I was so overwhelmed and I said, I'm here for so many people, but what about me? I was feeling so drained afterwards. And, I literally created a self-care practice for myself. And so I decided that every Sunday I'm going to have a home spa. So I'm just going to do, my hair. I'm just going to do, what is I'm gonna do? A face mask, but I would just create everything from scratch, like with olive oil and honey and yogurt. So I would just use whatever I have, in my fridge, just create it from scratch, create it with love. And so that was one of it. Then I would just journal how I feel and whatever else I want to write about, my emotions, my thoughts, my fears, especially my fears. There was a lot going on at that time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Journal was a big one. Taking maybe even 10 to 15 minutes to meditate. And in a sense, meditation, I think some people got it all wrong. Oh, meditation, just gonna be there for half an hour, just sitting there doing nothing and just empty my head. The truth is that when you meditate, you actually bring to your attention things that you're avoiding. Yeah. So let's say that, maybe you close your eyes and then you start crying out of nowhere. It is because thoughts or emotions come forward and perhaps something that you need to understand that you have been avoiding the whole day. So, it is a good way to release. Another thing that I did was, to take, again, time throughout the day and cry it out. Cause I was scared, frustrated, and I wanted to be strong for Leo. I wanted to be strong, for Joy. I wanted to make sure that we don't stress her out. I wanted to be strong for everyone. And then I was holding my tears back, but that would just make everything worse. So I just said, I just need to sit down, just 10 to 15 minutes, just cry my eyes out, and it would just feel so much better. Just release that energy.
That's true. Yeah. So definitely, you guys are not alone in that. The honest truth is that when it comes to surviving the pandemic and coping with what has happened to all of us, we are all so similar in what we went through. So just reach out and talk to people. It's really good therapy. That's the truth. So the final segment, I want to talk about so we talked about like the negatives and how to turn them into positives. Let's talk about how to deal with the mental and the physical, exercises that you can do, and then how to turn them spiritual. So I found a list by the Plymouth Psychiatric Group, published of these tips on how to actually get through quarantine. And some of them stuck out because we can actually take it further and actually bring a spiritual aspect to it that can help you and help your life. So let's share those with you. So number one is getting out at least once a day for 30 minutes, especially in the morning, you know, because there's social distancing. There's not a lot of people outside. It's good. We did that too. We tried to get out, you know, a little bit here and there. It was scary in the beginning, but we did it. I would say that, you know, when it comes to sort of like a spiritual and emotional aspect of it, you should try to go somewhere you love, you know, like we kind of live next to the water and we go there just to relax and feel like, ooh, you know, that makes me feel safe. That makes me feel just refreshed. So when you're going out during the pandemic, try going places that make you feel very, very good. Very, very good. And number two, reaching out to others and having chats with them, which we just discussed. Reaching out to the elderly, reaching out to people. Yeah. Talk about it, or talk about it with us. If you guys have any advice, you have any stories to share about how you survived during the pandemic, let us know in the comments now or even after the video is over.
Yeah.
Share your story, because everyone wants to be heard. You all deserve to be heard. The main lesson we want to share is that, in all honesty, besides what everyone says, we're not alone.
I was thinking just I was about to say that.
Yeah, we're not alone in it, and we can definitely share advice and help each other out, you know, so that's definitely something. But yeah, reach out to others, and to turn that into something else. How about you, like, listen to your intuition, and, you know, instead of reaching out just to family, reach out to new people. Mm-hmm. Reach out to people you haven't talked to in a long time. Old high school friends, old, old people that you know from a friend of a friend. Reach out to people in your soul tribe. Like, if you feel like, you know, during the pandemic, you really feel like alone and you feel like you're an empath, like you're just absorbing people's emotions. Well, there's a lot of empath groups out there and forums and stuff like that. There's definitely people out there who feel just like you. So all you have to do is reach out and talk to people just like you, and it'll work. So number three, stay hydrated, eat well, don't overeat or undereat. Yeah, we've all had a little bit of overeating during the pandemic. I'm guilty. Are all of you guilty? We're all guilty. See, there you go. You're all guilty. Yeah, pandemic was stressful. I was stress eating for a little bit. I'll admit it. But let's take it a step further. How about seeing how things make you feel and actually trying to eat with intention? So what I did during the pandemic is I would, we would choose something that we like to eat, and then I would make it fancy, real fancy, like a 5-star restaurant, and put healing intentions in your food, and then have it come back to you. So when you're eating the food, you feel like, you feel just loved, you know? So I think it's a very good practice. And then number 5, finding something that you can control and then anchoring yourself to that habit. I did that physically. During the pandemic, I also survived by making a gigantic family tree. Mm-hmm. Sure did, with like over 6,000 people in it. And so I did that because the pandemic made me feel completely out of control. And anchoring to that family tree allowed for me to have something that I can completely control, which gave me hope and a feeling that, you know, there is still possibility for me to have control over my life, or to regain all the control that I lost. So if you guys have anything that you did that you lost control out of, just let us know. That would be interesting to know different stories. But something you can turn spiritual is to sort of like, something that's out of control. Let's talk about that for a second. Self-talk and self-doubt, you know, because we all have those inner voices telling us, you're not good enough. You got fired because you were bad. And like, even I know I got fired because of the pandemic, but you know, for a while it was like, oh, did I get fired because they hate me?
Yeah, I blame myself for the same reason.
Yeah, I blame myself all the time.
That it's my fault that I got fired. Yeah.
Yeah, so we all know. But
the business closed down, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we all know that you're going through that too. During quarantine, we all have negative self-talk because there's so much stress. And what you have to do is, that's something that's kind of uncontrollable. You have to get control over that. You have to start using your words in order to heal yourself and to manifest a better reality for yourself, and not beat yourself up over it. Yeah. Yeah, you know, talk about self-doubt.
And I feel another thing that I also learned during the pandemic is that take, you know, the fact that I lost my job, and it was not even my fault because the company closed down because of the pandemic, right? It was actually a little bit before because the financial situation, whatever was going on in Chicago, apparently.
Yeah.
But I learned new skills. And I also highly suggest to you all that, you know, let's say that you lost your job or you're about to lose your job. Well, don't just let it bring you down. Don't be afraid of it. Don't say, oh, I'm going to lose my job and now what? Create an opportunity out of it. So let's say you need to learn a new skill for your job. So maybe a new program, or maybe you need to learn a new language, or the job that you would like to have in the future. What skills do you think you would need? So let's say you need to learn coding or programming.
Start training.
Yeah, take the time to learn. Or maybe you need to learn, you know, the whole Microsoft suite, right? Excel, Word, PowerPoint. You need to learn all that. Go ahead now. You have the time to do it. So when we get out of the pandemic, you know, you have all the tools and you have all the skills to move on to a better job. Because let's be honest in this situation, everything happens for a reason. And if we have to shift in our lives, it could be like on a personal level. So let's say many people, I know that they you know, broke up with their partner, right? Mm-hmm. So okay, take the time, you know, to learn more about yourself, learn about the situation, because in the past perhaps you will have taken the time to be a workaholic, just go work and just forget about it, or have drinks with your friends, or just go have some nice food, but you will have never sat down and think about it. And just understand where, what exactly you need to do, or where it came from, or how to address the problems, the emotional issues, the mental issues. And so now you have the time to do that healing, because when you will be in the next relationship, at least you know you have the time to address all of that. Or when it comes to your family, right? Let's say that maybe it's not working something with your family members. Now you do have the time to sit down and talk to them. Yeah. Because in the past you wouldn't have time to do that.
That's true.
And you also have the time to create a plan and just, you know, make your connection better.
That's true.
So just create opportunities for whichever part of your life you have been affected. Even if, you know, your health has been affected during this time. It could be from stress, or even for COVID itself. It's time, you know, to just create, I would just say, new healthy habit. Maybe you can learn how to cook healthy food, or maybe exercise, or, you know, maybe you could just do yoga or Tai Chi or Qigong or, martial arts or anything. Just take that opportunity to just better your life. Don't let this drag you down. So Sharon said, yes, my friend knows I'm always here for her. God bless all. Stay strong. Stay safe. Thank you for your loving advice and guidance. Thank you to Sharon so much for being here. And I'm so proud of you for being there for your friend. And you're really, really amazing. Yeah. And yes, we are in this together. No one is alone in this situation. Although it feels as if we're alone, we are not.
Yep. Yes, indeed. So yeah, this week is about being honest about quarantine, being honest about the struggles that you've been through, speaking up, talking about the struggles that you're going through, and letting your neighbor know, letting your family know that you're having a hard time. Because, you know, being honest with yourself and being honest with the people that you love actually brings you opportunities for healing. And the last thing I want to mention is the most beautiful thing about quarantine is that, you know, in quarantine, it gives you the option and the opportunity to, you know, have a spiritual awakening, have an inner realization, you know, because we're all going through that. So before quarantine ends, or as quarantine continues, to find meaning in it, definitely give your time to find your spiritual meaning in it. What is the awakening affirmation for you? What is the thing that you solved during quarantine that you would have never solved otherwise? Think of that today. Write it down, you know, and keep it close to your heart, because that's will give you, for the future years to come, a reason why you shouldn't doubt yourself in these years that you had to spend in bed or in your home because of COVID-19. And you shouldn't have to have any negative doubt in yourself. Just forgive yourself for being weak for a moment and be strong. Yeah.
Yeah, I just, I know that many people have awakened at this time. And I know that sometimes like the spiritual awakening has been taken out of context. People think some magical things are happening, but really what happens is you just put all the little pieces together, the puzzle of your own life. Things come together and you have the huge realization, that aha moment. You're like, oh my God, everything starts making sense. And this is the first spark of awakening, what has happened in your life. And then usually people at that time, when you understand who are the people in your life, who is around you, you understand the truth about your job, about your family, your friends, everything around, even the world that we're in, what is true, what is not true. And then you feel that connection, you know, with the universe or the God you believe in, or wherever you believe. There is that huge energy coming down, and then all these big realizations, and everything on the sudden starts making sense. So just, as Deb would say, she would just say, keep your antennas open, so just to be able to receive all these energies.
That's true. Yeah, so that's it for today. Thank you for joining us. All of you that joined us along the way. Feel free to watch this over if you want any tips or tricks on how to survive quarantine. And the lesson I feel that should be expressed from us as spiritual life coaches and past life therapists is, you know, struggles are going to come and go. But it's really how you survive them, how you thrive in them, how you problem solve, you know, in these times of stress. That really determines your character. So definitely give yourself some time. Thank you, Roxana. So we love you guys. We look forward to next week. Next week, we're going to be talking about toxic people and narcissists. We're going to be honest about those. Oh, God, it's going to be fun. Toxic relationships.
It's going to be out of those lives.
Yeah, but we felt like definitely surviving quarantine is a topic close to our heart, and we hope that this message gets out to all of you and to all of the people that follow our posts. We love you guys.
Love you guys, and thank you for being here. And remember that you're not alone. We're here for you. And if you want advice, our door is open. Just send us a message and tell us how you feel. We'll just be here for you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Have a good night. Sweet dreams and happy Friday and Saturday on the other side of the world.
Yes.
It's Saturday over there. It's Friday over here. It's so funny. All right. See you guys.
See you guys. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.